Hi, thank you for joining me as I share lessons from Matthew 10. Now, Jesus sent out his 12 apostles. Now, apparently, there's a difference between a disciple and an apostle. An apostle is a disciple is a learner or a follower. An apostle is one who is sent by God to serve a purpose. So we see the disciples here transition into apostles because Jesus was sending them out. Now, before he sent them out as apostles, he gave them authority over demons, disease, affliction, and so on. But he also, as he did that, he showed, well, suffice to say, that apostles have authority. That's another difference between apostles and disciples. He gave them directions also. And this is what stood out for me because as apostles, he was sending them out, but then he was giving them directions. And there were a few things that stood out to me. He sent them out to only the lost sheep of Israel. He asked them to not go anywhere that wasn't. So basically, they were supposed to stay only within Israelite territory and to minister, to Jews. Now, this shows that he had a timeline for his ministry to the Jews, because we do know, and we've said so many times, that his message and his kingdom, and Jesus didn't come just for the Jews, but I believe this was the period for the Jews to hear the message. Obviously, for those who are familiar, we will see an expansion of this later as we read on. And after his death and resurrection, the gospel definitely will spread to other places. But for this time, his instructions to his apostles was to go only to Jewish towns. Another thing that stood out was that Jesus gave the apostles a mission to go out and to proclaim the good news of the kingdom, to heal the sick, raise the dead, and essentially perform the miracles, the signs, and the wonders which he did, which they had seen him do. Now, he also gave them instructions on how to go about this mission. He essentially told them to go out with nothing. He said, don't even take a change of clothes. Now, they were going to be going out and depending on the hospitality of strangers, leaving behind their family to follow him and facing opposition for his sake. Those were essentially the details of the mission. I just thought about, just imagine receiving a mission like that. How, like, you're like, excuse me? But that's where faith comes in. And all these things, all the examples I've given right now, going out with nothing and depending on God, provide practical example of the virtues that an apostle must possess. So there are many people out here who call themselves apostles, but then I wonder, do you really, or can you really embody or show or demonstrate this level of faith and this level of dependence on God, and not just God, on people as well, and people because God ordained this, right? Now, some of the characteristics that stood out to me for apostles are obedience, humility, and increasing amounts of trust and faithfulness. The apostles were to expect persecution, rejection, and even death. This, I believe, are the things that separate true followers from those who are just fans. We talked about the parable of the sower. So I think this is what separates those who are deeply rooted from those that fall on shallow ground. As apostles, they had to understand that their commitment to Jesus had to take precedence over their commitment to their family, because they essentially left everything behind to go on this mission as commanded by him. And just like God had said to the people in Exodus, that those who accept them accept him, and those who reject them reject him. And we see Jesus say the same thing to his disciples here. Talk about consistency. Don't we love it? We love it. Now, here's my hashtag getting to know God lesson. Jesus was concerned about all the details of the apostles' journey and the mission. From the big details to the tiniest ones, we see him tell them how to provide for their needs. How he would provide for their needs, like take nothing, go with not even a change of clothes. essentially saying, I will provide for you, I will make sure you don't lack anything, but just to show that you depend on me, don't take anything. And he also gave them authority over evil and power to perform miracles. This lets me know that God cares about everything, from the most mundane and the biggest thing, and he just works and fits everything together. He's omniscient after all, so he knows. He wasn't sending them out blind. He knew that everything that those disciples needed, that they would get. And think about that for my life, and think about how God knows everything that I need when I need it. Romans 8:28 tells us that all things, big things, small things, work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. He has attention to detail, and so we should pray about everything. There's really nothing big or small. Or what I always say, there's no such thing as a frivolous prayer. Remember how he gave all the details of the temple to in the Old Testament, right? Like, remember how he gave the details from the very small things to the big things. He's still the same God. He hasn't changed. So he is in the details. So don't worry too much about whatever it is that's threatening to make you worry. Jesus is in the details. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tomorrow, I'll be sharing lessons from Matthew 14, Mark 6, and Luke 9. And I look forward to seeing you here. And I really appreciate you joining me on this journey. God bless you. See you tomorrow, God willing. Bye.